There are secrets hidden in plain sight, messages woven into symbols, waiting for those who dare to look beyond the surface, clues left by those who understood something most people overlook. These were not just architects or craftsmen. They were keepers of mysteries, builders of more than just temples. Their legacy was never just about stone, never just about towering structures or intricate designs. It was a blueprint, one meant to transform the human mind, to shape consciousness itself. Imagine unlocking this hidden knowledge, learning to wield the same forces that shaped empires, that guided civilizations toward something greater. Imagine seeing the world not as a collection of random events, but as a carefully designed structure, a vast system governed by unseen laws waiting to be understood. This is not just a story about history. It is a key to unlocking your own potential. And once you see it, you will never look at the world the same way again. Picture a builder, not one working with brick and mortar, but with something far more intangible. A builder tasked with creating a temple unlike any other, one that is eternal, invisible, made not of stone, but of the human spirit. This is the path of the mason, the journey of those who seek knowledge beyond the physical, who understand that every tool, every symbol, every lesson is a metaphor for something deeper. The square, the compass, the all-seeing eye, these are not mere decorations. They are messages, each carrying a specific truth. The square, a symbol of integrity, a guide for how to live, how to shape one's choices with precision and righteousness. The compass, a reminder to seek balance, to measure one's actions with wisdom. And the all-seeing eye, a force beyond mere vision, an awareness that transcends, an understanding of the patterns that shape reality itself. But these symbols do not exist in isolation. Together, they form a grand design, a message hidden in the architecture of history, waiting for those who are ready to understand. They are a call to action, a challenge to awaken, to look beyond the mundane, to step into something greater. This was known as the journey of the builder, a path not meant for the few, but for anyone willing to follow it. In this journey, the builder is called to create a masterpiece, but he must do so under extraordinary circumstances. He is given no hammer, no chisel, no voices guide him, no hands assist him. He must construct something vast and powerful, but he must do it alone, using nothing but his own mind, his own strength, his own will. Because this is no ordinary construction. This is the building of the self. Each layer, each piece of this unseen temple is forged from his own experiences, his values, his beliefs. With every stone he places, he inches closer to something deeper, his purpose, his true self. But this is not a journey without struggle. Every builder must face resistance, must be tested, must overcome the forces that seek to stop his work. And so, 3 challenges arise: thought, emotion, and action. 3 forces that can either shape him or destroy him. Thought, the endless current of ideas, the mind's ability to guide or to deceive. Emotion, the fire of passion, the driving force behind every great creation, but also the chaos that can unravel it all. And action, the power to move, to shape, to build, but also the recklessness that can lead to ruin. At first, these forces betray him. Thought twists into doubt. Emotion turns into uncontrolled desire. Action becomes reckless destruction. The very temple he is building, the structure meant to elevate him, begins to crumble beneath him. But the builder does not give up. He understands that mastery is not about eliminating these forces, but about aligning them. He must learn to bring clarity to his thoughts, discipline to his emotions, purpose to his actions. Only then will his creation stand. Only then will he fulfill the task he was given. This story is not just an allegory. It is a reflection of the path we all walk. We are all builders. Every day, we construct our lives, our identities, our futures. The tools we use are not made of wood or stone, but of the decisions we make, the beliefs we hold, the way we choose to shape our reality. And just like the builder in the legend, we face the same challenges: thought, emotion, action. Three forces that must be brought into balance. Thought, without clarity, leads to confusion. Emotion, without control, leads to chaos. Action, without direction, leads to destruction. But when aligned, they become something powerful. They become the foundation of mastery. The journey of the builder is the journey of self-discovery, the process of refining one's inner world, of sculpting something extraordinary from the raw material of experience. Just as a sculptor must chip away at stone to reveal the masterpiece within, so too must we confront our own rough edges, our own flaws, our own limitations. And this path is not easy. There comes a moment when every builder reaches a breaking point, when the weight of the task seems too much, when betrayal, hardship, and doubt threaten to undo everything. But it is in this moment that the greatest transformation occurs, because the builder understands that even the forces that sought to destroy him were, in the end, the very tools that shaped him. He does not reject them. He masters them. He does not fear them. He wields them. He understands that struggle is not an obstacle, but a necessary part of the process, that only by walking through the fire can one be reforged into something greater. And so, the builder who once struggled alone becomes something more. He rises, not through miracles, not through divine intervention, but through his own dedication to the journey. He is reborn. This is the true secret of the Masonic tradition, the hidden message beneath the symbols, the wisdom that has been passed down for generations, not simply a way of building structures, but a way of building the self, light and darkness, creation and destruction, order and chaos. The forces that shape the universe are the same forces that shape us. The builder understands that these are not enemies, but necessary companions. Light is only meaningful because of darkness. Knowledge only holds power when forged in the unknown. And so, he does not fear the dark. He steps into it, knowing that within it lies the potential for something greater. This is where transformation begins. The builder stands at the edge of transformation, not yet fully formed, but no longer who he once was. He has walked through the trials, faced the weight of doubt, the chaos of emotion, the recklessness of unfocused action. But now, something within him shifts. He is no longer fighting the forces around him. He is shaping them. The tools that once felt too heavy to carry are now an extension of his own being. He moves with purpose, not just because he has been told to, but because he now understands why he must. This is the moment when the builder truly begins his work, not just in constructing something external, but in shaping something eternal. The path he walks is no longer about proving himself to the world. It is about proving himself to himself. He realizes that every stone he lays, every foundation he builds, is a reflection of his own mind, his own discipline, his own ability to bring order to chaos. But the greatest challenge is yet to come. Because the builder is not just creating something for himself. He is creating something that must endure, something that must carry meaning beyond his own lifetime. And to do that, he must understand the final lesson, the balance between destruction and creation. Everything in this world follows this pattern. A forest must burn for new growth to emerge. A storm must break the sky open before the air is clear. The most powerful forces in existence do not simply build. They destroy. They refine. They clear the old to make way for the new. And now, the builder must learn to do the same. The unshaped stone, the unrefined mind, the undisciplined soul, none of these can stand in their raw form. They must be shaped, cut, transformed. The builder must be willing to take his own imperfections, his own limitations, and break them apart piece by piece. He must remove what no longer serves him. He must cut away the false identities, the illusions of who he thought he was, the patterns that have kept him from reaching his full potential. And this is where most falter, because destruction is painful. Letting go of who you once were, stepping away from the comfort of familiarity, choosing to release everything that no longer aligns with your highest self. This is not easy, but it is necessary. The builder understands that the world is not fixed, that nothing is permanent, that every great structure, no matter how solid it seems, will one day crumble. And so, he does not cling to what was. He does not fear change. He embraces it. He allows the old to fall away, knowing that in its place, something greater will rise. But the test is not yet over. Because even after he has refined his mind, balanced his emotions, and disciplined his actions, there remains one final obstacle, the greatest illusion of all, the illusion of separation. For so long, the builder believed he was alone in his work, that his path was his and his alone, that the weight of his journey was something only he could carry. But now he begins to see the truth, the structure he has been building, the unseen temple he has worked so hard to shape. It has never been just his. It is part of something greater. Every builder before him, every seeker of wisdom, every mind that has dared to look beyond the surface has walked this path before. The knowledge he has gained is not his alone. It is a thread in a much larger pattern, a legacy that stretches back further than he can comprehend. He is not alone. He never was. And so, the final lesson reveals itself. Not just the mastery of self, but the mastery of connection. Understanding that wisdom is not meant to be hoarded, the truth is not meant to be locked away, that the work he has done is not for him alone. The true builder does not build only for himself. He builds for the future. He builds for those who will come after him. He becomes part of something greater, not because he seeks recognition, but because he understands the weight of his responsibility. And this is the moment when everything changes. Because the builder is no longer just a student of the craft. He is now a master of it. Not because he has reached the end. There is no end. But because he has reached the point where he no longer fears the journey. He understands that the path is never finished, that the work is never truly complete, that every step forward reveals yet another layer, another truth, another piece of the design. But he is no longer lost, no longer searching without direction. He moves with purpose, with clarity, with the understanding that the greatest structures are not built in haste, but through steady, intentional effort. And so, he lays the final stone, not as an end, but as a beginning. A foundation, not just for himself, but for all who will come after. A symbol of what can be achieved when one dares to step beyond the limitations of the mind, beyond the fear of destruction, beyond the illusion of separation. This is not the end of the journey. This is only the beginning of something far greater. The builder stands before his creation, not just a structure of stone and mortar, but a reflection of his own transformation. He has shaped, refined, and aligned every part of himself, understanding that mastery is not about reaching a final destination, but about the willingness to continually evolve. He no longer sees his journey as a struggle, but as a process, one that reveals deeper layers of truth with every step. But now, he faces the greatest revelation of all. He was never building something external. The temple he labored over was never meant to stand outside of him. It was always within. Every lesson, every symbol, every challenge has been leading him back to himself. The realization is overwhelming, yet liberating. Everything he has sought was never beyond his reach. It was always there, waiting to be uncovered, waiting for him to recognize what he had been all along. This is where the final illusion breaks. For so long, he believed he was separate from the universe, from the great forces that govern existence, from the wisdom that seemed just beyond his grasp. But now he sees that he was never separate at all. The very essence that created the stars, that shaped the laws of reality, that gave life to all things, it is the same essence that flows within him. He is not merely a builder. He is the structure, the architect, the creation, and the creator all at once. Most never reach this understanding. They search for knowledge as if it is something to be acquired, something outside of them, something that must be given rather than realized. But the builder now knows. Truth is not something to find. It is something to remember. It is something that has always been there, waiting for the mind to quiet, for the distractions to fall away, for the illusion of separation to dissolve. And now, as he stands in this knowing, another shift occurs. He no longer sees himself as an individual walking a solitary path. He understands now that every person, every soul, every seeker who has ever dared to ask the deeper questions is connected. That this journey is not just his own, but one shared across time, across generations, across worlds beyond this one. The wisdom he has gained does not belong to him alone. It belongs to all who are ready to receive it. But here lies another challenge. Because not everyone is ready to see. Not everyone is willing to walk this path. Many will reject it, will turn away from it, will cling to the comfort of the familiar. And he cannot force them to awaken. He cannot shake them from their illusions. He cannot hand them the understanding that took him so long to earn. He can only be an example. He can only embody the truth he has found, live it fully, radiate it through his presence. He does not need to convince, to argue, to prove. Those who are ready will see it. Those who seek will find it. Those who are meant to walk this path will be drawn to it, not by force, but by resonance. And so, the builder steps forward, not as a seeker, but as a guide. Not as someone who has finished his work, but as someone who now understands that the work is never finished. Every day, a new lesson. Every challenge, a new refinement. Every moment, an opportunity to create with awareness, with precision, with purpose. He moves through life differently now. He sees the patterns beneath the surface, the hidden messages woven into every experience. He understands that every interaction is a mirror, reflecting something back to him, teaching him, revealing what still needs to be refined. He does not resist the challenges that come his way. He welcomes them, knowing that within them lies the next step of his evolution. And now, he sees the world for what it truly is, not as a collection of random events, not as a place of disorder, but as a vast and intricate design, a structure built by unseen hands, a creation so perfectly balanced that nothing is ever truly lost, nothing is ever truly broken. Even destruction is part of the process, clearing the way for something greater. This is why he no longer fears. Fear was always rooted in the illusion of separation, in believing he was alone, in believing he could lose something that was never his to begin with. But now, he understands that he is part of the whole, that every rise and fall, every creation and destruction is simply the universe reshaping itself, refining itself, becoming more of what it was always meant to be. And because of this, he walks with a certainty that others cannot explain. He no longer seeks approval. He no longer chases validation. He does not measure success by external standards, by wealth, by status, by recognition. His foundation is unshakable because it is not built on things that fade. It is built on truth, on mastery, on the understanding that the greatest work one can ever build is the self. And yet, even as he reaches this state of clarity, he knows this is not the end. Because true wisdom is understanding that there is always more to learn, that every answer leads to a new question, that the higher one climbs, the more there is to see. He does not grow complacent, does not believe that he has reached the final level. He simply keeps walking, keeps refining, keeps building, not because he must, but because this is the nature of all things. This is what separates the ones who remain stagnant from the ones who continue to ascend. There is no final destination, no moment where the work is finished, no point where one can say, "I have mastered it all." Because mastery is not about reaching an end. It is about committing to the path, again and again, in every lifetime, in every form, in every reality. And so, the builder continues, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but because he now understands, this journey is the greatest gift. The process itself is the reward. And as long as he is here, as long as there is breath in his body, as long as there is work to be done, he will build, because that is who he is. The builder does not stop. He does not reach a point where he believes the work is finished. He understands now that mastery is not a final state. It is a way of being. Every moment, every thought, every decision is a continuation of the work. He no longer seeks an ending because he knows there is none. The only thing that matters is the next step, the next refinement, the next layer of understanding. He has walked through fire, through struggle, through uncertainty, and emerged with a clarity that few will ever know. But clarity is not the absence of challenge. It is the ability to see the challenge for what it truly is, a doorway, an invitation to something greater. Most people resist these moments, fearing discomfort, avoiding the lessons that come disguised as difficulties. But the builder does not resist. He does not fear discomfort. He embraces it, knowing that every test, every hardship, every moment of uncertainty is refining him further. He understands now that the universe operates in cycles, creation and destruction, rise and fall, expansion and contraction. This rhythm is woven into all things. There are moments of progress, where everything aligns, where the path is clear and effortless. And then there are moments of struggle, where nothing seems to move, where every step forward feels like a battle. But he does not despair in these moments. He knows that just as the tide recedes before it returns, just as the night deepens before the dawn, every period of stillness, every challenge, every setback is simply part of the rhythm. These are not signs to stop. They are signs to prepare, to realign, to sharpen his focus before the next great expansion. This understanding changes everything. He no longer fears failure, because failure is nothing more than a teacher. He no longer clings to success, because he knows it is temporary, just another phase in the cycle. He is not moved by external validation, because he is no longer seeking approval. His work is no longer about being seen. It is about being. It is about refining himself, not for recognition, not for reward, but because he cannot be anything less than what he was meant to be. And because of this, he moves differently. There is something in him now that others notice. Not arrogance, not pride, but presence. A stillness that cannot be shaken, a certainty that does not waver. He does not rush. He does not chase. He does not force things to happen before their time. He understands that everything unfolds as it should, that patience is not waiting, it is trusting. But he is not passive. He does not stand idle, waiting for life to hand him what he seeks. He acts. He moves. He builds. But he does so with precision, with intent, with the understanding that true creation is not rushed. A masterpiece is not made in haste. The greatest works require time, require patience, require discipline. And discipline is what separates him from the rest. Because most people falter here, they begin with passion, with excitement, with the energy of something new. But when the excitement fades, when the work becomes difficult, when progress is slow, they stop. They tell themselves it's too hard, that they don't have what it takes, that maybe they were never meant for more. But the builder does not stop. He knows that passion is fleeting, but discipline is a choice, a commitment, a way of life. And so, when others rest, he refines. When others doubt, he trusts. When others quit, he builds. And this is why he succeeds. Not because he is lucky, not because he is more gifted than the rest, but because he refuses to stop. Because he understands that mastery is not about grand moments, but about what is done in the small, unseen hours. It is in the details, in the consistency, in the willingness to do what others will not. This is what makes him different. Because while most people search for shortcuts, for quick results, for the fastest way to get what they want, he knows that the only true path is through the fire, through the struggle, through the slow, steady work of refining oneself day after day, year after year. And so, he continues, not because he has to, not because he is chasing something, but because this is who he is now. He is a builder, not of structures, not of monuments, but of something far greater. And as long as there is work to be done, as long as there is more to learn, more to refine, more to become, he will build. The builder has reached a point where he no longer questions his path. He no longer wonders if he is capable, if he is worthy, if he has what it takes. Those doubts belong to a different version of him, a version that no longer exists. He has stripped away everything that was not real, everything that was placed upon him by the world, by fear, by expectations that were never truly his. Now, what remains is only what is true, what is unshakable. But there is something he did not expect. He thought that once he reached this place, this state of clarity, of discipline, of mastery, everything would feel complete. that he would stand at the top of the mountain, looking down at the path he had traveled, with the satisfaction of knowing he had arrived. But now, standing here, he realizes something profound. There is no mountaintop. There is no final destination, no moment of ultimate arrival, no point at which the journey ends and everything is finished. The path does not lead to a single peak. It stretches endlessly, revealing new heights, new challenges, new depths of understanding he never imagined. And he smiles, because this means he will never stop growing. He will never stop learning. He will never stop becoming. Most people fear this realization. They want a finish line. They want a moment where they can say, "I made it," where they can rest, where they no longer have to push, to strive, to refine. But he no longer seeks rest. He no longer wishes for ease. He understands now that the work itself is the reward, that the path itself is the purpose. And this changes everything. He no longer seeks to rush the process. He no longer looks for shortcuts. He no longer wishes for the struggle to be over. He embraces it. He welcomes it. Because he understands now that struggle is not suffering. It is refining. It is strengthening. It is shaping him into something greater than he was yesterday. This is why most people never reach mastery. They want the rewards without the effort. They want the growth without the challenge. They want the transformation without the fire. But the builder knows that the fire is necessary, that the pressure is what turns stone into sculpture, what turns iron into steel, what turns a man into something more. And so, he steps forward into the unknown without hesitation, because he no longer fears what lies ahead. He knows that whatever comes, he will face it. Whatever challenge arises, he will overcome it. Whatever lesson presents itself, he will learn it, because he has become something unbreakable, not because he is immune to hardship, not because he is free from struggle, but because he no longer resists it. He no longer sees it as an enemy. He sees it for what it is, a teacher, a force that does not exist to stop him, but to shape him. And now, a new realization dawns on him. He is not just walking this path for himself. There are others, those who are still lost, still searching, still trapped in the illusions he once believed in. They have not yet seen the truth. They have not yet understood that they too are capable of transformation, that they too hold within them the power to build, to create, to master themselves. And now, he knows his purpose is not just to continue forward alone. It is to show them the way, not by telling them, not by forcing them, but by being the example, by living in such a way that his presence alone is enough to inspire change, by carrying himself with such unwavering strength that others cannot help but wonder what he knows that they do not, by moving with such purpose, such clarity, such undeniable mastery, that those who are ready to awaken will feel it. Because truth does not need to be shouted. It does not need to be forced. It simply needs to be lived. And those who are ready will see it. He understands now that this is the greatest legacy. Not statues, not monuments, not recognition, but impact. The silent, invisible force of a life lived in alignment. A life that lights the way for others, even without trying. And so, he continues. Not because he must, but because there is no other way to live. Because he has seen the truth. And once you have seen it, you cannot go back. Because he was born to build. And as long as there is more to create, more to refine, more to become, he will build. The builder does not look back. He does not dwell on what was, on what could have been, on the past that no longer belongs to him. He knows that the only direction is forward, that the only thing that matters is what he builds from this moment on. But something within him has changed. He no longer moves with urgency, no longer feels the restless need to prove himself, to force progress, to demand results before their time. He understands now that true mastery is not about speed. It is about depth. It is about intention. It is about moving with precision, with purpose, with an awareness so sharp that every action, no matter how small, becomes an act of creation. He sees this truth everywhere. In the craftsman who carves a single piece of wood with patience, knowing that rushing will ruin it. In the warrior who does not waste movement, who strikes only when the time is right. In the architect who spends years designing before a single stone is placed, knowing that a weak foundation will bring everything crashing down. This is what separates those who build something lasting from those who build only for the moment. Because most people do not think long-term. They chase the immediate, the temporary, the gratification of something quickly achieved. They sacrifice quality for speed, wisdom for convenience, discipline for comfort. But the builder knows better. He knows that what is built in haste will crumble just as quickly. That what is not rooted in something deeper will not withstand the storms to come. That mastery is not in the grand gestures, but in the small, consistent refinements that compound over time. And so, he works differently now. He no longer seeks to do more. He seeks to do better. To sharpen his mind, not by cramming it with endless knowledge, but by cutting away the unnecessary, by distilling wisdom down to its purest form. To strengthen his body, not by overexerting, but by refining, by moving with efficiency, by training with intention. To master his emotions, not by suppressing them, but by understanding them, by using them as tools, rather than being controlled by them. Every moment is a chance to refine something, to sharpen something, to build something stronger than it was before. And because of this, he is no longer moved by distractions. He does not waste his time on trivialities, on things that do not serve his purpose, on meaningless pursuits that drain his energy but offer nothing in return. He does not engage in battles that do not matter. He does not chase things that do not align with his higher vision. This does not mean he is without feeling. It does not mean he is without passion. If anything, he feels more deeply than ever before. But he has learned to direct that energy, to channel it into creation rather than destruction. He does not let his emotions dictate his actions. He lets them fuel his discipline. And this is what makes him unstoppable. Because while others are controlled by their impulses, he is guided by his principles. While others react, he responds. While others hesitate, he moves. Not out of recklessness, but out of certainty. There are truths hidden in the spaces between what we see and what we think we know. Clues scattered throughout time. Messages encoded in symbols, waiting for those who are willing to look beyond the surface. For most, these are nothing more than coincidences, forgotten remnants of the past. But for those who dare to question, who dare to dig deeper, these fragments begin to form a pattern, one that reveals a design far greater than anything we have been led to believe. What if the world around you was not random? What if history, architecture, even the very fabric of reality itself was carefully constructed, not just to shape the world, but to shape you? Imagine realizing that every structure, every sacred design, every intricate pattern left behind by the great minds of the past was not just for aesthetic beauty, but for something much deeper, the transformation of human consciousness. There were those who understood this long before us. They were not just architects, not just builders, not just visionaries. They were keepers of something far greater, the blueprint for human awakening. They knew that symbols carried power, that geometry was not just an art form, but a language that spoke directly to the mind, to the soul. And so, they left behind a trail, carefully encoded in stone, in sacred sites, in knowledge passed down through generations. But why? Why would they go through such lengths to conceal this wisdom in plain sight? Perhaps because they knew that not everyone was ready to see it. That true power cannot be handed to those who have not yet earned the right to wield it. That real transformation is not something that can be given. It is something that must be discovered. And so, we are left with these scattered pieces, waiting for those with the eyes to see. Imagine stepping into this hidden world, unlocking the knowledge that shaped empires, that guided civilizations toward something greater. Imagine realizing that the world you have been living in is not just a collection of random events, but a carefully designed system, governed by unseen forces, waiting to be understood. This is not just a story about the past. It is a key to your own transformation. And once you see it, once you truly understand what has been hidden in plain sight, you will never look at the world the same way again. Not because he is immune to hardship, not because he is free from struggle, but because he no longer resists it. He no longer sees it as an enemy. He sees it for what it is, a teacher, a force that does not exist to stop him, but to shape him. And now, a new realization dawns on him. He is not just walking this path for himself. There are others. Those who are still lost, still searching, still trapped in the illusions he once believed in. They have not yet seen the truth. They have not yet understood that they too are capable of transformation, that they too hold within them the power to build, to create, to master themselves. And now he knows his purpose is not just to continue forward alone. It is to show them the way, not by telling them, not by forcing them, but by being the example, by living in such a way that his presence alone is enough to inspire change, by carrying himself with such unwavering strength that others cannot help but wonder what he knows that they do not, by moving with such purpose, such clarity, such undeniable mastery, that those who are ready to awaken will feel it. Because truth does not need to be shouted. It does not need to be forced. It simply needs to be lived. And those who are ready will see it. He understands now that this is the greatest legacy. Not statues, not monuments, not recognition, but impact. The silent, invisible force of a life lived in alignment. A life that lights the way for others, even without trying. And so, he continues, not because he must, but because there is no other way to live. Because he has seen the truth. And once you have seen it, you cannot go back. Because he was born to build. And as long as there is more to create, more to refine, more to become, he will build. The builder does not look back. He does not dwell on what was, on what could have been, on the past that no longer belongs to him. He knows that the only direction is forward, that the only thing that matters is what he builds from this moment on. But something within him has changed. He no longer moves with urgency, no longer feels the restless need to prove himself, to force progress, to demand results before their time. He understands now that true mastery is not about speed. It is about depth. It is about intention. It is about moving with precision, with purpose, with an awareness so sharp that every action, no matter how small, becomes an act of creation. He sees this truth everywhere. In the craftsman who carves a single piece of wood with patience, knowing that rushing will ruin it. In the warrior who does not waste movement,